I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any?
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
That right there is Kamala giving Donald Trump all of the attention he deserves, which is to say, not much. And here's the thing. Network TV was falling over itself for this interview. All we heard for weeks and weeks and weeks was how important it was for her to answer their burning questions. And when they had the opportunity to sit down with her, they asked her for a response to Donald Trump's claim that she was not black. That's what apparently the media was so desperate for an answer to. I don't know who needs to hear this, but getting Kamala's response to Trump's bullshit is not worthy of her time, not a good use of ours, and does not qualify as journalism. If you're wondering why Americans are over the usual media framing, it's because it's tired and outdated. But despite all of that, we actually did get substance from Kamala Harris.
You talked about, you call it the opportunity economy. You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it. Which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years. What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
I get that Donald Trump is desperately trying to shoehorn this idea into reality, that the Trump years were some period of great prosperity. They weren't. I don't know if people need to be reminded that nurses were wearing garbage bags to work and that people were being buried in mass graves because Donald Trump so mismanaged the pandemic. In fact, I covered this exact topic during a debate with Donald Trump's own economic advisor and the author of his 2017 tax cut, Stephen Moore, during a debate on Chris Cuomo's show yesterday.
But Brian, the simple politics of it is, am I better off than I was 4 years ago?
Exactly.
Do you lose on that basis?
Right now, if you want to know whether not only whether families are better, but the entire United States is better, Donald Trump left office with net loss of 3 million jobs, with a 6.3% unemployment rate, with an economic contraction of 3.4%. Right now, we have 16 million jobs added. We have the strongest economy in the world, and we have the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. So this idea that we're somehow not better off under Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, is a complete denial of reality. In fact, there hasn't even been a single Republican administration in my entire lifetime that's had a stronger economy than a Democratic administration. There hasn't been a single Republican administration in my lifetime that's had more jobs added than a Democratic administration. There hasn't been a single Republican administration in my lifetime that's had a lower unemployment rate than a Democratic administration.
All right.
So I don't know what Republicans are pushing here that is going to actually reflect well on them, but in over 30 years, Republicans have never proved themselves better stewards of the economy than Democrats. So if anyone can offer me any information that actually shows how we were better off under Trump or any Republican president, I'm all ears. And Kamala, to her credit, doesn't just skirt around that issue, she embraces it wholeheartedly.
So you have been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than 3%. The work that we have done to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. Donald Trump said he was going to do a number of things, including allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Never happened. We did it. So now, as I travel in the state of Georgia and around our country, the number of seniors that have benefited. I was in Nevada recently, a grandmother who showed me her receipts. And before we capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month, she was paying hundreds of dollars, up to thousands of dollars a month for her insulin. She's not doing that any
You
longer.
maintain Bidenomics is a success.
I maintain that when we do the work of bringing down prescription medication for the American people, including capping the cost of the annual cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000, when we do what we did in the first year of being in office to extend the child tax credit so that we cut child poverty in America by over 50%, when we do what we have done to invest in the American people and bringing manufacturing back to the United States so that we created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, bringing business back to America, what we have done to improve the supply chain so we're not relying on foreign governments to supply American families with their basic needs, I'll say that that's good work. There's more to do, but that's good work.
You'll notice how Danabash fits in that little question, so you maintain Bidenomics as a success. And look, I'm not going to ascribe any motivation to anybody else, but that sure does sound like the kind of neat little talking point that she's trying to nail Kamala on, as if she scored some win by getting her on record supporting the dirty word that is Bidenomics. If that's the case, I don't know who CNN is taking its cues from, but there is literally nothing wrong with Bidenomics, with the economic framework that has propelled the United States to the strongest economy on the planet. Bidenomics is a massive, unequivocal success. The notion that we should be running away from an economy that's the strongest in the world, that has added the most jobs in the world, that's got the lowest unemployment rate in half a century, and the strongest stock market in U.S. history is some right-wing rabbit hole nonsense. Danabash then tries to hit Kamala on another perceived weakness as far as the media is concerned, the border.
Another issue, big one, is immigration. As vice president, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
Northern part of Central America.
the northern part
Yeah.
of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S. During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. The number of immigrants coming from that region has actually reduced since we began that work. But I will say this, that Joe Biden and I and our administration worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border, and because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill. A border security bill that would have put 1,500 more agents on the border. And let me tell you something, the Border Patrol endorsed the bill. And I'm sure in large part because they knew they were working around the clock, and 1,500 more agents would help them. That bill would have allowed us to increase seizures of fentanyl. Ask any community in America that has been devastated by fentanyl what passing that bill would have done to address their concern and a pain that they've experienced.
So you would push that legislation again. I just want to
Not
ask
only
about
push it, I will make sure that it comes to my desk and I would sign it.
The thing about Trump is that he is so ham-handed and anti-democracy, He turned the Republicans' biggest strength into a massive liability. Republicans can't even use the border, as a campaign issue anymore because Trump was just that desperate to keep it broken to wield as a cudgel against the Democrats. He has so much disdain for his supporters that he figured his blatant efforts to entrench the border's problems would go unnoticed by the entire country. But of course, Kamala has zero qualms about reminding everyone exactly who's responsible for the issues at the border. And now, as we head toward November, she is perfectly willing to discuss that issue now that Trump has all but screwed himself on it. And a few quick thoughts here. First of all, so much of the questioning that we heard was simply right-wing framing spewed back at Kamala. She hit a home run at this interview, so it didn't matter much, but it's still worth pointing out as an indictment of the media that is more focused on repeating right-wing talking points than bothering to stand up for democracy. Second, for days leading up to this interview, the right was going on and on and on about how Kamala needed Tim Walz there to save her, and that it was a bad look to give a joint interview. Meghan McCain wrote, "I don't know if Democrats fully realize how damaging the image of the possible first woman president being incapable of giving an interview alone without the presence of a man to help her is." Here's the thing. Kamala commanded this interview from start to finish. She fielded nearly every question, and she certainly didn't need anyone to save her. But that won't matter to someone like Meghan McCain, who got to spend the last 24 hours pretending that doing a joint interview, as every presidential ticket, including her own father's, has done, was somehow a reflection of Kamala's weakness, when very clearly it wasn't. The innate misogyny on the right cannot be overstated. But here's the final point worth making, and that is that while Kamala displayed a mastery of the subjects that she spoke about, she is still going up against an abject moron who at the same time as this CNN interview was on stage himself saying this.
You take a look at bacon and some of these products, and some people don't eat bacon anymore. And we are going to get the energy prices down. When we get energy down, you know, this was caused by their horrible energy wind. They want wind all over the place. But when it doesn't blow, we have a little problem.
So if any Republican decides to take a real critical look at this CNN interview, it is straight malpractice to do so without also answering for the guy who thinks that wind energy impacts bacon intake. And so now, pour one out for all those Republicans who put all of their eggs into the Kamala will blow this interview basket, only to watch her hit a home run. It's just a matter of time before they invent a new imaginary benchmark that they think she'll fail at, but I can assure you that just like tonight, she'll knock it out of the park. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.